好，請問大家
Can we start?
好，我覺得我哋攝影時間都差唔多啦。
I think that will be all for photo calls, and I'll ask government officials to take their seats. Welcome to today's press conference on the promulgation of the Primary Healthcare Blueprint. We have with us Secretary for Health, Professor Lo Chung Mao, Permanent Secretary for Health, Mr. Thomas Chan, Undersecretary for Health, Dr. Libby Lee, Commissioner for Primary Healthcare, Dr. Pang Fei Chow, Convener of the Steering Committee on Primary Healthcare Development, Dr. Lam Ching Choi, together with Professor Gabriel Leung and Dr. Donald Lee. First, the Secretary will give us an idea about the blueprint, and then Dr. Libby Lee and the rest of the panel will give you their views and share with you a presentation. Afterwards, we will ask the floor to ask questions. Well, in the video clip, you will see Dr. Lam and Dr. Lee. Secretary, good afternoon, friends from the media. Hong Kong people, I take the opportunity to announce to you Primary Healthcare Blueprint. Hong Kong has one of the longest lifespan in the world. With people having a long lifespan and an aging population, we will see more and more cases of chronic illnesses. We estimate that 10 years from now on, the number of people with chronic illness will increase from 2.2 million to 3 million, which accounts for about 37% of our population. Our current healthcare system focuses on treatment instead of prevention. Specialist healthcare expenditure of the public system accounts for 80% of our total expenditure. For primary healthcare, which is the first line of defense, the expenditure accounts for less than 20%. If chronic illnesses are not identified early for early treatment, if the situation deteriorates, there will be complications which will add burden to our public system and a longer waiting time for specialist service. With COVID, the consequence of our over-reliance on secondary and tertiary healthcare system has been aggravated. So we have to introduce a reform in order to maintain the lifespan of Hong Kong people while pushing back the time when people suffer from chronic illnesses. In the policy address in 2022, the Chief Executive mentioned that there will be a reform of our healthcare system to shift the focus from the current treatment centered to prevention-centered, using the community as the backbone. There will be more resources devoted to the promotion of primary healthcare system. Under the leadership of the Steering Committee on Primary Healthcare Development, we have launched the blueprint, the Primary Healthcare Blueprint, under which there will be a series of reformatory measures to enhance our primary healthcare system. Our strategy is prevention-oriented, community-based, family-centric, and early detection, timely intervention. Our vision is to provide a sustainable healthcare system. I would like to thank the Steering Committee for the work in the past 5 years and for their valuable recommendation and input. In relation to the recommendations of the blueprint, the working group under the Steering Committee will invite stakeholders to start discussion on these recommendations and to map out implementation details. I'm honored to have 3 conveners of the Steering Committee, namely Dr. Lam Ching Choi, Professor Gabriel Leung, and Dr. Donald Lee here with us. They will share with us their views on development of primary healthcare. I will now defer to Dr. Libby Lee to give you information about the general direction. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. I will now give you more information about the blueprint. First of all, the background, the definition of primary healthcare, and what the blueprint is, and how it's related to the general public. I will also talk to you about the conclusion. Just like the Secretary said, we have an aging population. There are more and more chronic illness cases. We do need a change. Some background information first. In Hong Kong, the life expectancy of male is 83.4, for females 87.7, which is the longest in the world. And for every 5 years of age, the percentage of chronic illnesses will increase by 10%. By 2036, about 3 million people will suffer from chronic illnesses. And about 2.5 million people will be over the age of 65, and that is about 30%. Well, there is an idiom saying that there is always a teacher among a group of 3. But now, what we are faced with is that there will be 1 person suffering from chronic illnesses or 1 elderly person in a group of 3. For diabetes mellitus and hypertension cases, we see that about half of them are undiagnosed. That means they don't know that they're suffering from the chronic illness. And for those who are aware of the illness, 1 in 3 has already developed complications. In other words, that they only seek medical treatment because of the complications. And when complications appear, the service cost for treating them will be 2 times higher. And in some cases, some complications are irreversible, say, for example, renal failure or stroke. So in terms of our healthcare system, the focus is on treatment. That means members of the public will only enter the healthcare system when they are ill. This explains why 80% of our expenditure are devoted to secondary and tertiary care. For some people who don't know that they are ill or they're just suffering from mild illnesses, it will be difficult for them to enter the primary healthcare system. We are at a crossroad now. We may not know about our health condition. And even if you want to get healthy, you wouldn't know what to do. And as you get older, your health will deteriorate. You feel helpless. Then you wonder whether there are ways to stop aging as rapidly. And because of our lifestyle, people will drink, smoke, and because of lack of sleep and rest, that results in chronic illnesses. People don't easily go to see a doctor, and when something happens, they don't know where to turn to, and they're scared that they will have to rely heavily on a hospital service. So what is primary healthcare? Will it address the problems I've just outlined? First of all, primary healthcare serves 7 million people, not just grassroots. Some people think that primary healthcare means care for grassroots. That is not the right idea. And primary healthcare focuses on prevention, and it aims at treating mild cases in a community. There will be a family doctor for all. On top of that, there is a one-stop care, and everyone will have a personalized health record for everyone, so that there will be follow-up in a personalized service.
去制定嘅。
We have 3 visions and 4 strategies. Our visions are to improve the overall health of the population, provide continuous and comprehensive healthcare services, and create a sustainable healthcare system. On strategies, they are prevention-centric, community-based, family-oriented, and aim at early detection and intervention. Regarding the 5 major areas, they are as follows. First, develop a community-based system. There is a community network so that patients do not have to go to the hospital to obtain health management. Second, to strengthen governance. Specialist outpatient clinic and hospitals have very close association. There should be information interchange. Third, we hope to consolidate resources, including the Department of Health and Hospital Authority, so that we can leverage the resources and to make better use of them. Fourth, we have to reinforce manpower, be it the number development or numbers. This is not just limited to doctors in other sectors, for example, nurses or allied medical health professions. These are the same. Last, with one account for every single citizen, we all know what illnesses we have and what medications we are on. This also enables analysis so that we will have an understanding of our health and physical conditions. I will give you an example to illustrate the relevance of the blueprint to citizens. Let's first take a look at the graph below. Let us call it Mr. Slow. He is slow in recognizing the health risks and health conditions. He doesn't know whether he is suffering from illnesses, so he had midsection spread, and when he recognizes a problem, he already suffered from stroke. And then Miss Smart, from a very young age, she already utilizes primary health care and detects health risks. She enjoys very good health conditions as a result. She suffers from ailments very infrequently. And I believe that every single citizen would choose Miss Smart. So what does Miss Smart do? What does she do? She can go to the district health center to obtain information, as well as treatment. Ms. Smart also takes part in the screening and services in relation to hypertension and diabetes. Of course, the public healthcare system continues to be the safety net for citizens. After screening services, Ms. Smart and citizens can also choose their own family doctors based on the primary care registered. This can ensure quality. Every single doctor on the list receives proper training in order to assure quality. The benefit is that doctors and citizens maintain a good relationship with trust. They also follow up on the health conditions of citizens. We hope that we can treat mild cases in the community so that patients do not have to go to the specialist outpatient clinic and the hospital. They can actually treat ailments in the community. However, when Ms. Smart suffers from serious illnesses, she can also go to hospital or a specialist outpatient clinic. When her situation stabilizes, she can receive monitoring and treatment at the community level. Apart from screening, Ms. Bart can also enjoy different services as coordinated by district health centers, including dentists, Chinese medicine practitioners, physiotherapists, pharmacists, and DCH play the role of coordination. Ms. Bart is also entitled to her own account, that is to say, a personal electronic health record account. She has access to the medications she's on, which doctor she will be referred to, etc. She can also monitor and manage her health situation through the electronic means. When Ms. Bart ages, such as up to the age of 65, she can also enjoy elderly healthcare vouchers. Half of the vouchers, 1,000, will be dedicated to designated use on prevention of diseases as well as health management. For example, she can use the vouchers to treat chronic illnesses. Afterwards, she will have $500 added to her account, and of course, that amount can be used on general uses. For this to materialize, we have to establish two organizations. First, Primary Healthcare Commission, decision-making, resource allocation, standard setting, as well as surveillance of health outcome. The second one is Strategic Purchasing Office. It is responsible for service coordination, as well as other functions such as strategic purchasing and performance monitoring. PHC is responsible for managing services, setting standards, assuring quality, as well as monitoring and training, whereas Strategic Purchasing Officer, leveraging on the market information, utilizes market resources, enhances effectiveness, achieving the effect of consolidating purchasing and enhancing choices. Lastly, we'd like to achieve the aim of living healthier and happier. We hope that we can rely on prevention instead of treatment. We can aim at early detection, timely intervention, health management starting at a young age. Apart from investing in health, we can also improve our quality of life. That concludes my presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Under Secretary. Dr. Lam, please share with us. Journalists, citizens, good afternoon. You all are aware that I am concerned about the aging population in Hong Kong and its impact on public services. On top of me myself, Dr. Lee is also present on the panel, who is now the chairman of the Elderly Care Commission. Primary health care is closely associated with aging population. Today, this is a very important moment. Not just the public healthcare system, but the overall healthcare system in Hong Kong. This is an important step. First, to citizens, if primary healthcare is successful, Hong Kong citizens can lead a healthier life. To the public healthcare system or to the elderly healthcare system, if we do not take this step forward, our sustainability is in doubt. The Elderly Care Commission in 2017 conducted a survey which was accepted by the government. If today elderly people do not improve in their physical conditions, the two systems mentioned above in the coming 10 to 20 years will not be able to sustain. So we have to lose no time in enabling the good health of Hong Kong citizens, especially for elderly people. As Dr. Lee introduced, the ultimate aim of the primary healthcare blueprint is exactly like this. There are two elements. First, we have to establish a very healthy primary healthcare ecosystem, which comprises a host of factors, including district healthcare center. In this financial year, it is available in all 18 districts, whether it be DHC or DHC Express, the Department of Health has been running different healthcare services, and we have to rationalize these services. So the district health centers and these existing services will have better integration so that resources can be utilized in a better manner. Thirdly, we cannot neglect stakeholders in this system. That is to say, the family doctors, Chinese medicine practitioners in the community, as well as other allied healthcare professionals. In the community, they play a pivotal role. So, how do we incorporate them into the system? How can we achieve the concept of family doctor for all? Lastly, do not forget that in a community, there are a lot of resources dedicated to primary health care. Despite the fact that these resources is not in the healthcare system, they actually play a very important role. Let me give you an example. There are 200-odd different elderly homes or elderly care centers. They are actually very good gatekeepers. So how we can leverage these resources? This is very important in establishing the ecosystem. We have to establish an accurate and correct referral system so that we can divert every single citizen, especially those with the chronic illnesses. They have to stay in the community. So this is a significant step. On funding, there are two fronts. First, is there sufficient funding? I will not delve into this in detail. Secondly, the flow of money. How we can encourage citizens to stay in the community, to stay within the primary healthcare system, as structurally introduced by virtue of strategic purchasing, elderly care vouchers, and the funding mode, the expenses from public services. We can encourage citizens to stay within the community. In a moment, we will talk more about the process of constructing the public healthcare blueprint. That is to say, the Chronic Disease Co-Care Scheme, CDCC. Through financing and the flow of money, we can adjust the habit of citizens and users so that we can keep citizens within the community.
We'll now hear from Professor Low. Good afternoon, everyone. Just now, Dr. Lam has already told you an overall consideration of our strategies. If you read the thin document, page 21, in relation to the blueprint, is a co-care of the chronic disease co-care system. What is it? It is actually about using new resources to consolidate the service to make it more targeted. To improve the cost effectiveness and the use of the funding so that it will be diverted to those in the most need. This will be in terms of primary healthcare or prevention of illnesses. If you turn the page, on page 22, you will see two sets of figures. What do they mean? The one on the left, that donut, is the information we have on 2019-2020. In terms of general outpatient clinic in the public sector, about two-thirds of the patients suffer from diabetes, mellitus, or hypertension. And if you look at the details of the 2/3 of the patients, you will see that those who are not as well off, those who receive more financial assistance, it accounts for about a quarter. So if you put the two figures together, that means those receiving general outpatient clinic services and those who suffer from the two most common chronic illnesses, those who are socially disadvantaged, it accounts for about 1/6 of the patient. And for this 1/6, we would like to make sure that the resources devoted to them will be used better. For the others, that is the rest of the group, we will make use of the chronic disease co-care system so that on the principle of co-payment, they will be able to receive screening management of chronic illnesses under Family Doctor for All, so that we can achieve early detection, timely intervention. So for amongst the different chronic illnesses, we put the emphasis on hypertension and diabetes because they are the two most common types of chronic illnesses. You may ask, what about a chronic renal failure, kidney failure, and other illnesses? A lot of these patients are receiving services in the public healthcare system, but for the majority of patients suffering from chronic renal failure, they also suffer from chronic diabetes mellitus. Because of poor management of the diabetes, they end up also having renal failure. So we would like to have a targeted approach to focus our resources on these people. At the same time, for cases with early detection and timely intervention, we can prevent complications. We would like to do it better, and that will be diabetes and hypertension. That is the general idea. If you refer to page 75 in the appendix, you will find a table about the co-care scheme, the series of, well, you will see the timing on a short, medium, long-term table, table 4.1. You will see the chronic disease co-care scheme management. You see what are the actions to be taken. When I was serving in the government, I have already launched the GOPC PPP, General Outpatient Clinic, a private-public partnership, and there is also the elderly healthcare voucher. We have introduced enhancements on a number of occasions. We've also increased the amount. Just now you heard from the Undersecretary that $1,000 of the voucher can be used on a special purpose. If you used up the 1,000, we will give you another 500. In other words, the healthcare voucher scheme is enhanced. We also have the GOPC PPP. We hope that it will be transitioned to a more targeted subsidy scheme in the form of the chronic disease co-care scheme. So for 4.1 and 4.2, you see enhancement, strengthening to make sure that our schemes will help those in greater needs in a more targeted way. And 4.3 is management framework. As you heard from Dr. Lee, there are new units. One is a commission, the other one is an office. If we want to do things better, then we will have to make sure that everything is done in a fair way. There is transparency. That's why we have new roles created in our resource allocation exercise. We have been deliberating over the blueprint for a long time, and these are the main areas. Thank you.
醫生，
Thank you, Professor Leung. Dr. Lee, please. Citizens of Hong Kong, reporters. On an ideal primary healthcare services, a family doctor should lead. But that also requires the collaboration of a primary healthcare system, including physiotherapists, occupational therapists, dietitians, optometrists, etc. This is a team led by a family doctor to provide people-centric services, above all, to provide doctor-patient services with trust that can also lead to prevention. So we have to provide training in this regard to assure quality. But a lot of you may ask, what is a family doctor? How is it different from a general practitioner? The difference lies in attitude. First of all, family medicine is a specialist. It is a specialism. There are 15 specialisms, with family medicine being one of them. As long as they possess that attitude, and they are willing to provide people-centric services continuously, that would already suffice. So we have to provide training, which is an indispensable part of these services. We will also have regard to other aspects. For example, training. We will also provide training in this regard. In addition, we'd also like to reinforce the role of Chinese medicine practitioners, pharmacists in the community, but then we also have to maintain quality and the standard at the community level. On the monitoring of health, we will also form a population data gateway, which analyzes the physical conditions of the entire population, as well as the mode of using the service to support the system. In the long run, we will plan the manpower in primary health care. We will also review the manpower required. We will devise strategies, policies to estimate the manpower needed. We will also increase manpower and provide training on improving the flow of information, the interchange of information. We will mandate all users to use the dedicated app so that they can upload the information to eHealth. That's all from me. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Before the floor is open for questions, let us watch two clips which introduce the primary healthcare blueprint.
下個星期先可以復診，希望呢幾日冇事啦。
正所謂年紀大機器壞嘛，人老咗多多少少會有啲病痛㗎啦。
係啊，人哋話香港有成200幾萬人有高血壓同糖尿病等慢性疾病㗎，差不多有一半係65歲或以上嘅長者啊。
點止啊？啲專家話20年後預計啲長期病患會增加到300萬人㗎。
啊！呢幾位先生女士講嘅説話真係好啱。其實個情況隨時更加嚴重添啊！因為有好多人咧都唔知自己有慢性病，人數啊隨時仲多1倍添。
吓？咁誇張？
咁點算咧？
到時唔知要排幾耐先睇到政府專科喎。
咁又唔使咁擔心，其實好多慢性疾病係可以藉住基層醫療及早控制，況且有家庭醫生睇住，唔使下下入公立醫院睇專科嘅。
即係點啊？
政府將會推出慢性疾病共同治理計劃，資助你去檢查一下，睇下有冇糖尿病或者高血壓。萬一真係有事，計劃會資助你由家庭醫生幫你 check 住同埋控制住。仲有社區裏邊其他嘅專職醫療團隊，好似營養師同埋物理治療師等等，都會全面幫你改變不良嘅生活習慣，有效穩定病情。
啊，咁我想問下啦，如果病得嚴重有併發症，咁點算呢？
咁你睇開嘅家庭醫生就會按住你嘅病情同埋意願，會轉介你去合適嘅專科門診。當你嘅病情穩定咗嘅時候，你又可以翻返去你睇開嘅家庭醫生，繼續幫你監察住。
係啊，我老公咧定期都有做身體檢查㗎，好早發現咗佢糖尿病。醫生話如果遲咗4、5年唔睇啊，到時長手尾啊，糖尿病上眼啦，糖尿腎添啊。不過咧，我覺得睇私家真係有啲貴咯。
咁又唔使咁擔心，政府係會資助糖尿病同埋高血壓嘅檢查同埋覆診費用，長者仲可以用醫療券添啊！
咁有政府嘅資助，我咪可以有多個選擇咯。咁不如我哋一齊去做定期檢查，咁咪唔使估下咯。
早發現早治理，病向淺中醫，就唔需要擔心慢性疾病帶嚟長遠嘅經濟同埋健康負擔，咁係可以享受健康人生咯。
呢排個心口有啲悶，我喺 Facebook 見人哋推介呢個食療，話可以降血脂嘅喎。
喂，但係你個體質同我食療夾唔夾㗎？不如試下呢隻藥，藥房老闆介紹嘅。
我都係問你啊，你平時食開邊隻保健㗎？冇見咁耐，你都仲 keep 到嘅。
其實我有定期揾 Doctor Lee 做 body check 㗎，定期檢查可以唔使估下。其實你都可以揾個信得過嘅醫生幫你睇實，穩陣啲㗎。
大驚小怪啦，個少少事邊有使睇醫生㗎？
你哋咁樣揾嚟揾去，點解唔幫自己揾個啱自己嘅家庭醫生呢？
家庭醫生？
其實香港呢，而家只有大概2成嘅人呢係有自己嘅家庭醫生嘅啫。政府係打算要推動同埋強化家庭醫生喺基層醫療嘅角色嘅，希望做到咧每一個家庭、每一個市民都可以選擇自己固定嘅家庭醫生，成為自己信得過而又了解自己身體狀況嘅醫生。
咦？咁點揾呢？
你可以用基層醫療指南去到揾你屋企或者工作地方附近嘅家庭醫生，熟悉你嘅家庭醫生咧就可以跟進你嘅健康狀況，係你嘅健康夥伴。
我明啦，就好似呢個經理咁，我哋一入嚟就知道我哋要飲普洱同唔食得肥膩嘢。
就係咁啦，家庭醫生咧就最熟悉你嘅病歷嘅，而且咧透過家庭醫生定期嘅監察咧，萬一你出現咗併發或者病情惡化嘅時候，家庭醫生就可以及早咁樣轉介你去睇合適嘅專科。到我哋病情穩定啦，我哋又可以翻去熟悉我哋嘅家庭醫生度跟進。
我上星期去康健中心做健康檢查，仲 check 埋血壓血糖。聽中心嘅人講，原來屋企附近有好多家庭醫生，仲可以揀到個啱心水嘅醫生添。
呢位先生就醒目啦！18區嘅地區康健中心咧，其實就好似我哋嘅私人健康助理，支援家庭醫生咧，同時亦都統籌合適我哋嘅護理流程啦，同埋跨專業服務，幫我哋做好健康管理。你仲可以透過醫健通去到掌握同埋記錄你自己個人嘅健康數據，好似血壓啦同埋血糖指數咁樣咧就可以增強你管理自己健康嘅能力啦。
哦，咁啊真正做到健康啲、病少啲、開心啲。
好，咁以下落嚟咧就我哋答問。
Now the floor is open for questions. Please use the microphone we give you. Before you ask questions, identify your media outlet. Please limit your number of questions to 2. Remember to be concise. May I remind you that today our focus is on primary healthcare. Let's start. The gentleman at the back.
Hello, can you explain how the new system with a focus on primary healthcare, how is it better than the existing healthcare system? Can you explain the co-core, co-payment system? How can that subsidize the chronically ill so that in your papers I see that you say some of them may pay less for a private doctor. How does that work? And secondly, my question is on the setting up of a new commission and the purchasing office in the blueprint. Will that involve more public money? How much more will that involve? In the initial transition phase, will that mean the functions of the commission overlapped with the existing functions of the Department of Health and the Hospital Authority? Thank you.
Okay. May I invite Professor Loh to answer first questions and then Mr. Chan to answer the second?
Yes. Primary healthcare is different from the traditional treatment-based system. Because primary healthcare focuses on prevention and early detection and diagnosis, especially using chronic diseases such as hypertension and diabetes as an example. If you can detect and diagnose these two conditions early, you will be able to avoid complications rather than waiting until complication happens and we will have to go to all the specialists and even tertiary care. In that sense, that will help us in the long run, not just to improve our people's health, save life, but also to save money in our overall public healthcare expenditure.
On the question about setting up the strategic purchasing office and the primary healthcare office, we are not, strictly speaking, starting from scratch. We have been launching and conducting various public-private partnership and subsidized primary healthcare programs. And the proposal of setting up the two offices is to better consolidate the resources and also to coordinate the services. As regards the overlap with the Department of Health, there are a number of services under the Department of Health which falls into the realm of primary health care. And these services will be progressively put under the umbrella of the Primary Health Care Commission so as to allow future primary health care service delivery to be better coordinated. Thank you. The setting up of the Strategic Purchasing Office and the Primary Health Care Commission and also the launching of the chronic disease co-care program and also the enhancements to the elderly healthcare voucher scheme as announced in the Chief Executive's policy address would involve additional resources. But as to the exact amount, we'll have to await the next year's budget for the details. Thank you.
好，下一位。嗰邊第四行黑色外套位男士。
The gentleman in black in the 4th row. Thank you. I'm from TVB. First of all, in relation to the primary healthcare blueprint, when do you think that it will be launched? Do you have a timetable? In relation to resource consolidation, when? In relation to the chronic disease co-care scheme, you mentioned that the government will subsidize members of the public to do health checks and to receive medical consultation. What is the fees level? Similar to the public healthcare system or different? If it's different, how do you attract the public to participate in this scheme so that they will change their behavior and stay in the community to seek preventative treatment? Professor Loh, first of all, in relation to the development of primary health care, it is not a task that spans over a short time. And it's not just about 5 to 10 years, because we're talking about a major development and reform that will have an impact on the development of the whole healthcare system in the long run. It will also have an impact on public health. What we're trying to do is to collect views from different stakeholders. We will map out details of our measures. We have short, medium, and long-term measures. Say, for example, the chronic disease co-care scheme. We estimate that in the second or third quarter of 2023, it will be launched. And that is the measure to be launched in the short term after the promulgation of the blueprint. More on the co-care scheme. We're still working on the fees level. We'll draw reference from our experience, including the primary healthcare public-private partnership. We'll also look at the market situation. As you know, that the current public healthcare system focuses on treatment. The main target of our co-care scheme is for our people who currently don't know that they have any illnesses. If they're over the age of 65, if they have any risk factors, say for example overweight, they can participate in this chronic disease co-care system. So we're talking about different target group receiving different services. They receive one-stop service from a cross-discipline team. So apart from doctors, we have dietitians, physiotherapists, and nurses following up on their cases. So the scope of service is different too. The lady in the middle. I'm from cable TV. First of all, you said that the positioning of general outpatient service will be adjusted, and it will be for grassroots. So are there going to be 2 queues? Say, for example, one for people with a higher income level, and they will be turned away. They will be asked to go to the private sector. Regarding the subsidy, where will the funding come from? You have previously mentioned about a brain drain. You need manpower when you are consolidating your services. So what are you going to do with manpower when it's diverted to primary healthcare? You ask members of the public to have an e-health system. Does it mean that they will all have to have their own e-health system? Or is it the case that they either go to the private sector or they go to the public sector? First, about primary health care. GOPC and general outpatient service is still part of our service. Members of the public can still seek medical attention from general outpatient service, but if they would like to participate in the co-care scheme, they can find a family doctor in our primary healthcare register to follow their case. Regarding manpower, currently we have about 15,000 doctors, and in our primary healthcare register there are about 2,600 doctors. We will put in place supporting manpower measures. Of course, we don't want manpower to be a stumbling block. We want to put everything in place so that there will be sufficient manpower to take care of public health. Let me add about the e-health account. Please bear in mind that e-health is the healthcare is a medical account of members of the public. From the very start, it's done on a voluntary basis. We want to provide convenience to members of the public by putting in place an information infrastructure to link up medical information in the public sector and the private sector. We would also like to facilitate that whichever doctor you see, the doctor will be fully aware of your medical condition to ensure consistency and continuity. This is an important part in our primary health care. This is about whole person healthcare system. Over the years, we have been developing this system. About 5 million people have participated. In the future, what we would like to do is that if members of the public wants to find primary healthcare service, the healthcare practitioner will have to enter relevant information in the personalized account so that when the patient go to a different doctor, the doctor will be able to see all the information.
Over there in the third row, checked, beige. Yes, lady there, please.
So are there any timetable or concrete details on how the family doctors for all scheme will be implemented? And how will the government ensure citizens won't rush to the emergency rooms when they can actually seek help from the family doctors? And in response to the low usage rates of district health centers, how will the government further promote the services? And how will these centers work with family doctors in the community to provide services? Thank you.
May I invite Professor Lowe to answer the questions?
The primary healthcare blueprint sets the direction for a reform in our healthcare system. So it's not an issue of just in the next 1 year, 5 years, or even 10 years. It will change our overall healthcare plan in the next few decades. We have short, medium, and long-term goals. And so for the timetable, for example, when we now put up the primary healthcare blueprint, we will start discussion with different stakeholders, including the medical profession, other healthcare professions, our patients, and various interested parties. So this will be done in the next few months. And the chronic disease co-care pilot scheme will be implemented within the second and third quarter of 2023. The district health center is an important hub for the delivery of primary health care. It's the centerpiece of primary health care delivery. The previous issues with the low utilization of district health center is partly related to the fact that the blueprint hasn't come out yet. With the blueprint coming out, I'm sure the district health center will have much more busy time.
下一位呢邊第二行。
Next one. Second row, the gentleman over there. From Huipao. Only 2,600 doctors out of the 15 doctors are on the register. Can they cope with the burgeoning demand? How can you increase the figures? On the timetable, although it will take a long time, is there any indicator to gauge the effectiveness and the progress of the blueprint? For example, for SOPC or MRI, patients will have to wait for a number of years. Will the waiting time be shorter with the rationalization of the resources? I will invite the Undersecretary and Dr. Donald Lee on the first and two questions. On the manpower demand, we estimate that this issue does exist, whether it be primary healthcare or other healthcare system. Manpower does have to be increased, but then on the CDCC co-care scheme, it is a pilot scheme. We would like to, in a progressive manner, make use of the existing manpower to deliver services. Apart from that, actually, a lot of doctors can also take part in these services. They can join the register with training. They can also become family doctors. I believe that on the rollout of the blueprint, we will discuss with the trade, and this will appeal to more doctors to participate in the scheme. 2,000 odd doctors have registered, but then for those offering primary healthcare system, these services, the number surpasses 5,000 to 6,000. We will provide relevant training, so in the short term, we can increase the manpower by a very great margin. It is just a case that they have not yet been on the registered. We will provide training and monitoring to make sure that their services delivered are on point. As long as they have a good attitude, they can also provide high-quality primary healthcare services. We will defer to Secretary to answer the indicator question. The Undersecretary used the examples of Mr. Slow and Ms. Smart. These two examples in our current public healthcare system, they are not yet around in the system. They have not yet been aware of their hypertension and diabetes conditions. If Ms. Smart take part in the CDCC much earlier, Mr. Slow, 5 years or a decade later, when he has complications such as stroke or heart diseases, when he goes to SOPC, or when he goes to the hospital, he has to be hospitalized. So the impact of this blueprint will not be seen now. But then we can reduce the demand on hospitalization services as well as services in relation to specialist services. According to local surveys, not only can medical expenses be reduced, but we can also reduce serious cases as well as death cases. Next one, in the second row, the lady in white. Commercial radio. With the CDCC, Chronic Disease Co-Care Scheme, the fees level are still being discussed. Regarding positioning, what about the level of funding? Are you going to target the grassroots or those with resources who can consult private doctors? You also mentioned changing the habit of consulting doctor among citizens. What about the fees level of GOPC? For example, any upward adjustment? The Undersecretary or Professor Lang will take the question regarding CDCC. On the hospital authority question, Mr. Chan can take the question. Undersecretary, please. The Chronic Disease Co-Care Scheme, CDCC, does not aim at diverting citizens out, but then we would like to identify patients who do not know that they have the illnesses yet. This is not turning the patients away. We'd like citizens to be aware of their physical conditions. They do not know their blood level, blood sugar level, etc. We hope that we can heighten their awareness through this scheme. If after blood test they find that they have high blood pressure or high blood sugar, they can also go to district health center for follow-up. For ailments such as hypertension, they can also seek medical attention from family doctors. With this concept, we have this subsidy scheme coming into being. Be it GOPC, SOPC, or A&E charges, they are also part of the fee mechanism under the hospital authority. They have a regular mechanism to conduct regular reviews of the fees level. This will be dealt with by the relevant mechanism on adjusting fees level. The hospital authority will take into account the affordability of patients, other options available, or even the overall healthcare system.
Anything to add from Professor Leung on co-care scheme? I thank the reporter for the question. If we are to provide more targeted subsidy, as someone said, well, we have to do better on our preventive care. As we've explained, there are about 1 in 8 people in Hong Kong suffer from diabetes. But is it the case that the 1 in 8 know that they have diabetes and they have sought medical attention and have received proper treatment, are on medication, and the medication is taken timely to ensure that the condition is under control? In every stage that I've just mentioned, there will be about half of the people who have been left out. It is called a rule of halves. It is mentioned in a medical journal Lancet. And about 10 years ago, it has already been proven. So for people who suffer from hypertension or have high blood sugar level, we want them to know as early as possible if they have the condition, and they will go to seek medical attention, and after receiving medical attention they will receive medication and they will be taking medication regularly. And if we are very successful in preventive care, then what you've just mentioned might take place. Well, if the problem you asked materializes, it means that we are halfway to our target. Without additional resources, then we require resource allocation. In the appendix, page 70 or so, under the co-care scheme, we make use of primary healthcare, public-private partnership, or under the co-care, we will change patients' behavior so that it will be a co-care system. We have been implementing the GOPC PPP for quite some time. Our aim is to help patients make better use of resources in the public healthcare system. And if they have to pay out of pocket, the service level they receive will not be very different from what they would have received in a public healthcare system. We'll take 2 more questions. I'm from Ming Pao. The blueprint will bring huge changes to the healthcare system. Just now, Mr. Low talked about public-private expenditure. It is 8-2. In the future, what do you think the change will be? You said that you will leverage on market forces to launch the co-care system or co-payment system. What other services will be included under the co-pay principle? And in relation to the chronic disease co-care system, does one need referral from district health centers? The Audit Commission criticized that for certain district health centers, the utilization rate is rather low. If you rely on referral from these centers, are you concerned that they can't reach too many people? So Secretary will talk about resources and Dr. Pang will reply about district health centers. Just now I talked about a ratio or proportion, that is for specialist service expenditure. It accounts for 80% of our total expenditure. For primary service expenditure is about 17%. And both figures are the public healthcare system figures. I have not mentioned anything about the private sector. Under the chronic disease co-care scheme, we will start with hypertension and diabetes because these are two most common types of chronic illnesses. And we have sufficient data to show that early detection and timely intervention can prevent a lot of complications. This means that the public will be healthier and the pressure on our public healthcare system will be lower. Dr. Pang. We have done a lot of reviews in relation to district health centers. Service has been adjusted as a result of COVID-19. Yes, the Audit Commission report has put forward a number of recommendations. With the launch of the blueprint, we will reposition the district health center based on past data. They will serve as an important superconnector, and they will also double up as a healthcare assistant to members of the public. This is to dovetail our Family Doctor for All initiative as to how they can do the provision of information as well as connection roles. We will explore different ways for members of the public to obtain information from district health centers. In the coming future, the roles of DHCs will be changed. It will be strengthened, especially in terms of support for family doctors. Last question. Over this side. I'm from Tai Kung Pao. Just now, you said that there was no timetable. So when can members of the public go to a family doctor for screening? You said about 3 years. So exactly when? Perhaps we'll hear from the Secretary. Let me give you some information about the timetable. The primary healthcare blueprint, like the Secretary said, is a reform of our healthcare system. In the appendix, you'll find detailed information of our action plan and what are included in our short, medium, and long term. For short-term ones, the CE has announced in the policy address about the increase in amount of elderly healthcare voucher and the chronic disease co-care scheme. Like the Secretary said, we plan to launch these initiatives in the second or third quarter in 2023. We have a primary healthcare register. It will be transitioned. I will defer to another panelist about more information. We already have a primary healthcare register, about 2,700 doctors and some Chinese medicine practitioners in this primary care register. participants will have to meet certain requirements before they can, their name can be transferred to the new register. So we plan to launch the new register in about 2 or 3 years. Currently, we already have a primary care register. If you want to see or find a family doctor, you can find one. That's the end of our press conference. Thank you.